Hello and welcome to another edition of Storytelling on Orchard Street. I'm your host, Pete Salamita, and we're in the podcast studios of P&T Knitwear Bookstore on 180 Orchard Street. It's a great bookstore. They have fantastic selections of books. They have a cafe. They have events, so come check it out. With me today is Meghan Grupposo. She originally came from the gorgeous woods of southern New Hampshire, USA. Meghan Grupposo holds a BFA in dance from the Juilliard School. She is co-founder of the NeuroNautic Institute Presents and Press. Meghan's work can be found in her chapbook Bouquet on the NeuroNautic Press 2021 and in various anthologies including New York City From the Inside on Blue Light Press, Escape Wheel and Arriving at a Shoreline, Great Weather for Media, and the Dada Journal Maintenant, issues 14, 15, 16, and 17. That's on 3 Rooms Press. And she happily resides in New York City. Welcome to the show.
Thank
Hi.
you so much for having me.
Yes. So I found out where you were from. When did you move to New York City?
I moved to New York City to come to school for college.
Okay. What college was that?
The Juilliard School.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're off to a good start here. Dance.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Oh. Yeah. I trained
Ballet or?
primarily in ballet to start.
Right.
My mother had put me in gymnastics when I was, I think, like 3. You know, how
Right.
you put little kids in things.
Uh-huh.
And then...
Did you ever do the Olympics?
Well, no. I quit that when I was 8, but I had started dance when I was 7. And
Okay.
for whatever reason...
Was it your idea to switch to dance, or your mother suggested, or?
It was my idea to focus on it.
Okay.
I don't know why, really, I wanted to do it,
Mm-hmm.
when I go back and I think about it.
Had you seen other people? I mean,
I'm from New Hampshire, so I think, maybe I saw,
TV
something on TV, but I
Right.
really like to move, and
Right.
I, like to pretend that I was things,
Okay,
right? Be a little theatrical and
Right.
stuff.
Well, I
and
pretend that I'm a podcast host.
I think it works out for you.
Yes, I'm still pretending.
But yeah, so I trained. There were, starting at 7, there were examinations that you could take, and I wanted to do those. I always wanted to do whatever it was that would, kind of take me to the next level of something.
Right.
And make me very good. And so I, took the first year of examinations. I passed, but I wasn't really great. And then got really, really serious the next year. This is when I was like 10 or something, and did a lot better. And so that, I just kind of went from there. And then when I was around 13, I found out about a school that I could go to train. And I begged my parents to let me go.
Where was that?
It was in Natick, Massachusetts. It's still there. It's called the Walnut Hill School. When I was younger, I had seen The Children of Theater Street, which is about the training at the Mariinsky Theater, the Kirov.
Was this like a live-in?
Yeah, it was a boarding school.
Boarding school?
Very small, yep. And had all kinds of arts. And that's where I could go and study dance all the time.
Your parents said yes?
They agreed. They agreed, yeah.
It must have been hard for them, though.
Yes, it was.
To lose you to Massachusetts.
Well, and the side note is that it's the town that they met in.
Oh, that's weird.
Well, my mom had been an Army brat, and my father had lived there for a long time, and it's where they met. So
Right.
there was like a little synchronicity with that. So some of the family was
still there. And how
there.
far from New Hampshire was it?
Like 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So it's easy for them to visit.
Right, yeah, and for me to come home.
And did you love it?
I did.
Right. I guess you loved it enough to pursue Juilliard.
Yes.
That must be hard to get into.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Right.
While I was in high school, we attended these regional dance festivals, and I found out after I was at Juilliard that one of the teachers had seen me at one of those dance festivals.
Oh, that's convenient.
Like my sophomore year of high school. So she had been kind of watching.
Great. Did you have to take I know for music they have to do an audition. You have to audition.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I had
What's the pressure like for something like that?
Well, I got I kind of cheated a little bit in a weird way because I had been injured my senior year of high school. And so I couldn't make the normal auditions. So they let me come for they'd already accepted everybody. They let me come for 2 days and do 2 days of classes, and then I think it was in between the 2 classes I would do my solo that I had prepared. And somebody else had said this to me, another teacher at Juilliard later after I graduated, and I was working with her, said that I, was probably one of the few people who got in with 2-point ballet pieces, because that's not, their realm at all.
2-point is a rating system, how difficult it is?
No, it's like you're on point, like ballet on point. They're more of a modern, they're really strong ballet technique. I don't want to mislead, but they're more of a contemporary, modern school. And so for me to go in
traditional
with like 2 classical ballet pieces was a little unusual. But the way it was set up, I got into the classes. I saw a bunch of people I trained with in the summers. It was very comfortable to be in those classes, so I didn't have that same audition pressure.
Okay, so I don't know that much about dance, but I would think that ballet would train you to be able to, like, the training is probably so rigorous that other dance styles, you would have to learn, but you had the physical capabilities.
Yes and no, because there's a way to train in ballet where it's really clean and what we call unaffected, and there's a way to train in it where it really honors some fundamental basics of physics, which you need, and how to kind of hone what I call like your inner architecture, and find arcs, access your spiral in a really simplified way. But there are also like all these different ballet schools that have an affectation to them that make it difficult for you to kind of go into other lines of dance without giving it away that you're a bunhead or a ballerina or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
But there are like, there are a lot of
stigma of
it's there's always these things
the
like
underbelly of the dance.
Whenever you get into different areas of study, right?
Sure,
There's these little signifiers that give things away.
Well, I guess if you're a musician, it could be like classical as opposed to jazz or whatever. Yeah, it's a different thing.
Yeah,
very different.
Completely. Yeah.
Did you like Juilliard? Was it hard?
It was really hard. I did like it. It took me a while to get used to the city.
Wow, I bet.
Because I was so used to
completely different world.
Right.
Had you ever been here before that? Was that your first time in New York City when you came for the
audition? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
That must have been a lot to take in. You were like, what, 17?
Yeah, 18, but yeah.
Something you really want to do. There's a lot of pressure, and then you're in New York City.
Right.
One of your parents come with you, or?
No, I took the bus
Wow.
in. Well, I had a good friend whose mom lived, and I think she still lives in the West Village.
Okay.
So I stayed with them.
Nice.
And went up, to Lincoln Center and did my auditions, and then the second one was on my mom's birthday, and she wanted me to come home that day so I could be there. And I just remember, taking the bus back and getting off the bus and not being able to move because my muscles were just so tight from having
So we're going to keep talking about this because it sets up the rest of your life.
Sure.
But just curious, at this point in your life, were you also interested in poetry, or is that something that came later?
I always wrote. I always kept a journal. When I was like in 3rd grade, I wrote a poem about Sadako and the 1,000 paper cranes, which is kind of embarrassing now to think about. But it was, people were like, oh, it's so good. I took some poetry classes in high school. My high school was actually the school that Elizabeth Bishop went to. When it was an all-girls school and everything. So we had a writing magazine or journal called The Blue Pencil, and she had been one of the editors of it while she was still alive.
Okay.
And so, but I didn't know who she was.
Right.
I was into E. Cummings.
All right.
I wasn't into kind of, what I thought of like older stuff. I was into classical ballet, which is older, but when it came to, poetry, I liked Bukowski, I liked E. Cummings, I liked Margaret Atwood. So it just very different.
Have you ever mingled dance with poetry?
No, not intentionally, no.
Okay.
But I did teach for like over 15 years, and people would be like, are you a writer? Are you a poet? Like just with the imagery that I used and how I incorporated in the class.
Okay. So you get through Juilliard, and then what? Did you become a professional dancer?
I did a little professional work. I had been injured my senior year of high school. I was injured my second year at Juilliard, and then right as I was getting
What were the
out,
injuries?
Same stress fractures in my shins.
Oh, and that's just from the. Is that from a bad landing or?
That's from. I mean, we could do. I could. I've spent a lot of time like trying to figure it out. It's from a combination of holding a lot of tension, not landing with a softness in the ankle, which creates that tension, and dancing on concrete and dancing a lot.
Why were you dancing on concrete?
Outside.
Oh.
Yeah, you do these various performances and this very small guesting things, and you end up in a lot of different situations.
Wow, that doesn't sound good. Dancing on concrete.
No, it's bad. It's awful. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, at what point did you stop dancing? Oh, and do you dance now for fun?
Yes,
I was curious.
Yes, I dance for fun, for sure. Yeah.
Right. Like what style? Because I work with a woman that also went to dance school.
Okay.
And she's into the tango.
I wish I could tango well. So I stopped like a couple years after I got out of school.
Why'd you stop?
It was just too much, no health insurance.
Right.
Doing, small guestings and downtown work, also having to have another job. Also, I'm like in my 20s, living my 6-year-old dream, questioning like what is a lot of different things kind of coming together.
When you think of all the arts, any art is hard to get into.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you go to college or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Is one harder than the other? Is it harder to get into dance than it is to music? I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
seems like it would be like how many opportunities are there?
Yeah, I mean, I choreographed and performed for the Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center. I had very nice connections to pursue things. It was just what juice is worth a squeeze.
Right.
At what point in time I got to audition for Pina Bausch, which was really, really lovely. And one of my ballet mentors is one of the ballet masters.
Did you get the show?
No,
okay.
But I mean,
but you at least got to do it.
But I got to do it, but it was also a moment of going, okay, what do I want?
Right.
And I could pursue this, and maybe this would come to fruition, and maybe this is something I want, but where do I want to put my energy?
Right.
And I had focused so much of my time and my energy in the line of dance that I kind of wanted to. It
was like 8 years, right? Or more?
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you started when you were 9.
I started when I was 7.
7, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and this
so
is,
then, so that's 15, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's a lot at that age. It's like your whole life.
It is a lot.
It's and
to be, and to, I mean, to be injured and to also be wondering what else it was that I could do. I kind of wanted to live my life a bit and,
What'd you wind up doing for career?
I ended up teaching ballet.
I was going to ask you about the teaching.
Yeah,
Is a possibility?
I taught ballet for a while, and I taught in Miami at what was then the Miami Conservatory.
How'd you wind up in Miami?
I followed a guy, ended up in Miami, but also so different from up here.
Sure.
Wanted to experience something different.
Yeah.
But I taught there, and it's now the Thomas Armour, Armour Dance Theater. It's gone through a few renditions. Really wonderful school. I did costumes for the New World School for the Arts for a hot minute for their college dance division, high school dance division. Really nice community. And came back up, and I freelance taught ballet at Dance New Amsterdam, which I don't think any remnants of still exist. It used to be Dance Space. Loved doing that. And I taught social dance, so basics of the tango, amongst other dances, for a company called Dancing Classrooms that has a documentary film about them called Mad Hot Ballroom. That was like a huge deal, documentary film-wise, when it came out. So
I was a musician for many years and played in bands as a drummer. And I find that I became interested in writing poetry really late in life, like eight years ago.
Yeah.
I never wrote before. I always thought I was horrible at it.
Okay.
And then I suddenly realized, no, I like doing this, and it's not that bad. And I like doing it. Hopefully somebody else will like it. But I find that I have a lot of pieces written about music or musicians or
Sure.
Do you ever write about dancers? Have you?
I don't. What I write is like what I kind of might be thinking about while I'm dancing.
Oh.
or the seed of something that I might choreograph, something about.
When you're dancing, you're not thinking, like, don't you have to think about what you're doing, the physical part?
I mean, the goal is to...
And the music and...
The goal is to me, is to not really be thinking too much at all about what you're doing.
It's the same thing with music.
Right.
Or anything, sports. Like some
you want it in there. Right.
Some players wind up going into these really bad streaks because it's in their head and they're thinking too much.
100%.
And it's just like the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, encountered that with dance.
And whenever I've had problems like getting a piece in music, like it's usually in a recording studio too when you're hyper focused.
Yeah.
And if the drum track, you can fix everything else, you can't fix the drum track.
Really?
So there's a lot of pressure.
Okay.
The way I've recorded mostly. And so the first track it might be the full band or just a rhythm section, but you could always punch in a new bass line. You can even do bits of it. Like you can
you can pull it out.
You can fix, like the bass player or the guitarist can go back in. But it's really hard to do that with the drums. You have to be good. So I always felt so much pressure, and then I started thinking too much.
Right.
And then if it didn't go good the first couple takes, I would think too much.
Right.
So I guess it's the same way with dancing.
100%. Yeah, I had a director who basically just told me at one point to stop thinking. He said, drop the topic.
Right.
And I was like, which topic? He's like, whatever it is.
So we're really far into the show, and I want to make sure that you get to read pieces because that's important. Cool. So we could talk about other parts of your life moving forward. But why don't you read a couple pieces so we make sure we don't miss out on that. So what do you have here? Is that a chapbook?
Yes. This is like the second rendition. This is my hand-bound chapbook Bouquet that I produced through my press, NeuroNautic Press. This is the second rendition. The first one did not have the really nice hand-bound.
Yeah, I like that.
And then the next one,
Can you just flip through a little? I want to see what it looks like on the inside.
Yeah, and I have my markers. Let's see, to show it all over the place. But just to show.
All right, nice.
My poetry partner, Matthew Hupert, did the layout for it. But I also have, while I was in Miami,
that's nice. What's the graphic from?
It's pressed flowers from my yard in Miami.
Oh, so you did that?
So I pressed the flowers. Oh, that's really nice. And then, the beauty of the technology that we have is that we can, I can just take a photo of it,
right,
put it into the computer and have it be,
That's fantastic.
A really nice.
It's nice when you get it.
Yeah.
I have my photography in my book, but that's nice too. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do.
It's like when you could do your own art and your book.
Handmade paper. Sure. We had talked about this. Yeah, really getting into the book art element.
Right. Did you go to Rich's?
I didn't. I wasn't feeling well. I'd signed up and everything. I was so excited to go.
I didn't make it either. I couldn't. Yeah.
But yeah. All right.
Okay, so what are you going to read?
So I am going to read. I like long titles.
Oh, and where can people find this book?
You can find it on NeuroNautic.com on the website or through me. Okay. But it's not on Amazon or anything like that. I try to keep it a little more mom and pop than that. Right. All right. Sometimes you're a vessel for maple syrup. Sometimes the wind howls the neighbor's bamboo, or mainlining the woods. Steel-cut oats, maple syrup conduit, pools, rivers, ponds, that bit about cooling magma and oatmeal mountains. This is for the tongue. The memory of wood smoke, burning eyes, hours and hours in down layers, cold fingers and numb ear tips. The sun asleep in its nest. My spoon carves clean-packed snow, emphasis on clean, packed in a loaf pan, sticky candy, sticky fingers, young, unafraid teeth, a work-ready jaw. My spoon mixes it up. I'm a tree, sugar-rich. I also lick the bowl. Oatmeal. The most metal of breakfasts, congealed gray disappointment, wallpaper paste meets brown sugar, margarine, frozen berries, someone else's dyed corn syrup, skipped for solo coffee until I can't stand beneath your leaves. I must tree. I must tree. Amber, grade A, B, pure amber, everything I've ever been in that amber. Trees peddle their sauce to find me. We share content. Mycelium network be damned. The floor beneath my feet, cherry-stained red, red maple autumn, pooling maple mouth. Oatmeal is the Dickens of hot breakfast. Aforethought and forgotten footsteps, some elongated metal pan. No one quite had time, only time enough. I'm not from sugarcane warmth or light-absorbing kernels and maple clothing. Give me cold and a brief warm smack. Tongue to the old spigot, tin bucket rows, improved rubber hoses, surgical, clear. All true love runs clear. Raised by trees, loved by newts and dappled shade, my feet solid, cherry wood floor. Oatmeal is a means to an end. Find me. Off the stove top, forget the pot, spry and quick, zippity-zapped, beep and deliver. Find me. Red squirrel, sugar maple tree, wind and whirl and fallen leaf swirl, amber in my blood.
I love that. Is that from New Hampshire? Is that from your influence
that
of
is
growing up?
from being stuck in New York during the pandemic and wanting to be in New Hampshire.
Well, okay. So I know there's maple syrup in Vermont. Is there maple syrup from New Hampshire?
100%. And when I was little, there's even like a maple pancake like breakfast place where they make their maple syrup there. But when I was little, we had...
Is the maple syrup better fresh like that?
I mean, you got to cook it down. I don't know how much it matters.
Right.
Yeah, because you have to cook it down. But we had neighbors who, would collect the sap, and then they went away, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do this?"
Right. So you know how to sap a maple tree?
I have an idea.
Okay.
I've never done it myself, but up and down my parents' street,
Right.
they used to have the buckets, and now it's all these hoses,
Right.
which is weird.
Right.
And we stood there for like 8 hours in the cold, like with this fire outside with the big cauldron,
Really?
like cooking it down into maple syrup.
Oh, I didn't know you had to cook it. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
My wife, we have a maple tree in our yard.
Okay, just the one.
And she
Is
just-
it a sugar maple?
I guess I don't know. We'll have to
Yeah.
find out. She said, well, maybe we should try to tap it. Is it possible? I mean,
Yeah, but you're not going to get enough.
Yeah,
you
you
need
get-
like so much.
So you need a lot of trees.
to really cook it down.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we're going to get like
And it
one
needs to
serving
be-
of maple syrup.
Right. I don't know. I was reading on something, I belong to,
So-
all the groups we belong to, and they were talking about all the different tree blood that's also tasty. So I don't know if it's just sugar maple.
So what
syrup.
triggered that? So you're home during the pandemic. It just really sounded like that you could have written that from like your childhood or being
It was
up
all
there.
connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Right. But
Yeah.
why did you go there?
Because I was eating a lot of
Oatmeal?
oatmeal just for the maple syrup.
Oh, okay. You all right.
Yeah.
You eat the oatmeal because you know it's good for you.
I eat
And
it
you-
because it's
'cause you-
easy.
Okay.
It's
all right.
easy.
But it is good for you.
It is.
But
I don't know. It was a conduit.
Right.
I wanted the maple syrup.
Of course.
And
Well,
so I was.
you could have made pancakes too.
It takes longer. It takes so much longer.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I suppose. Quick oats or?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
quick. Yeah.
You didn't make steel cut.
No.
You want to go right to it.
Yeah.
All right. So you really like maple syrup, I guess.
It's one poem,
Yeah.
but
So so the woods.
So that
That's the one.
qualifies the woods.
That's the woods
Yeah.
because you wrote that as something.
My
we can
parents'
talk about.
house is surrounded by wildlife preservation. So
nice.
yeah. So
Like
it's-
how big of a preservation?
I think like at least 100 acres, maybe more. I'm not exactly
geez.
sure. Yeah, and
Like
it was,
right outside from their home.
Yeah,
and they're allowed to just go into it.
Yeah,
Holy cow!
like right on the edge.
Sounds beautiful.
And it used to be fairly.
And are they still? Are they in the house that you grew up in?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
And they're both still alive, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And you go visit.
Yes, I do.
And you go in for.
And I go for walks.
Hikes. Hikes in the preserves.
Yeah.
Take pictures.
Yeah.
Are the leaves from there or from here?
No, those are all from Miami. They're all
Oh.
flowers from Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wrote this. This is from
This is so the book. I actually made it initially as a gift, but it's a bunch of different things, and the through line is foliage and flowers and things like that, which is why it's called Bouquet. But it's like an offering.
Right. I can talk a lot. I mean, here when I'm out home, I don't talk as much. So we can talk a lot, but I want to make sure you get a chance to read your work too, because so why don't you read one more and then we'll chat for a bit.
All right. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what. Longer or shorter?
Whatever you want to do. And we still have plenty of time. I just want to make sure that people get to hear your poetry. And
all right, I'm gonna read this one for my son, who's coming home today.
How old is your son?
He's gonna be 19.
Oh, yeah. Is he in college?
Yes, he is.
All right, where?
Brandeis.
Oh, where's that? I've heard of it.
It's in Massachusetts.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, pretty close proximity to my parents too, which is nice.
Right, and what's he studying?
I think he's settled on education. He's doing an English major with an education minor.
Wow. So is he influenced by living with poets?
Yes, I think so.
Does he write poetry? Or he writes
he's dabbled, but it's not really his milieu. But,
okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so read that.
All right, this is called Monday.
Is this in a book or?
This is I don't think I've published this anywhere. I was thinking about submitting this to the alternative New Year's Day.
Okay.
Monday. Upon receiving permission to bring his forgotten lunch not just to school, but specifically to deliver said lunch directly to the kids' classroom, a heroic landscape unfurls before me. Bad ass. Sunlight parts the clouds and a double rainbow Rubens painting, mashed potato sky. A scene sculpted by the strength of everyday living, baskets carried on women's heads balance themselves. Men embrace each other and cry in public meadows, then laugh because everything is just fine. Horses and dogs eat out of each other's hooves and paws. Babies sit upright with prophetic expressions, palms upward, to dole out the blessed bounty of the world from their appropriately tiny hands, all because the kid, age 15, has deemed me cool enough to be seen at school. I make it past security, up to the second floor office. I'm ready with sandwich and texted room number. The secretary takes the sandwich and number and goes alone, taking all my glory. There's nothing left to do but text my son. The buttered sky becomes, you forgot the bleach, woolly gray. He texts back, will I wait downstairs so he can say hi? Yes. I descend the stairs in an Audrey Hepburn zigzag, thinking loudly to Fred Astaire, take the picture, take the picture. My friends want to say hi too. I push open the stairwell double doors. Peacocks line the hallway, take flight, and Busby Berkeley their turquoise bodies into backflips as I walk. 1, 2, 3, 4. They perch on my shoulders to the effect of broad, ever-expanding epaulets. The moon comes out during the day. She can be seen from inside. I go outside, barely fitting through the door. A few peacock feathers fall. A small price to pay as I sit my heart down in the courtyard and wait for my heart.
Nice. What inspired that?
It's a true story.
It's a true story?
Yeah,
Okay.
with the peacocks involved, yeah.
Wait, there were peacocks?
No, there were no
Okay.
peacocks. I'm
Right.
just joshing. But yeah, he's like, I forgot my sandwich and I got to go. And and I actually wrote it on the train coming home after I'd seen
What
him.
school was he going to?
He went to the museum school in Chelsea.
Oh.
It's on 17th. shares a
Hadn't
building
heard
with
about it.
lab. It's really tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And, pre-pandemic, the whole premise was that, I think 3 or 4 times a year, they would do these week-long modules in different museums.
Wow, that sounds cool.
Throughout the city.
Right.
And these group environments. And he really likes a small school
Sure.
and small
Right.
groups and stuff, hands-on.
Right.
So-
Is it a private or is it a
No,
city school?
no.
It's a city school?
Yeah.
Wow,
Our
cool.
taxes paid for that.
Did it get cut short by the pandemic, going to the museums, or did you get to do that?
Yeah. No, it got cut short.
Right.
Yeah.
God, that stinks. I feel bad for. I mean, obviously, everybody got affected by the pandemic in one way or another, but some people lost out on milestones, and I really think the kids that were either in any school, I suppose, but like the end of high school or college,
Right.
It could have been really difficult.
For him, it was really perfect timing because he'd already established his friend group. It was the middle of his sophomore year. I think they came back for his senior year. But so he had his crew,
Right.
And he had people he could
But
talk
did they go
to
remote?
on Zoom. They
Yeah,
went remote,
right, yeah.
but they, they're also, they're social media savvy and they're,
Right,
tech
sure,
savvy.
right.
So there was.
I think my son was relieved when they went remote.
It was easier for him, and he was doing the sailing program, that Hudson River Sailing.
Wow.
I'm giving them a plug right
Right.
now. Actually gave to these kids at this school for free. There were a few schools that they gave it to for free, and they were still able to go sailing.
Right.
Because you can be outside and
Well,
you can be in the wind.
Right.
And
Where did he get the idea to do the sailing? Was that a family thing or no?
No, no, nobody sails.
Right.
But if something's free, I'm like, go and
That's a
try
great
it
thing to-
out.
yeah, it's a great
and
thing
if
to
you
learn.
hate it,
Yeah.
you don't have to go back.
Right.
But, go try it out. So we did, and there was a community there too. So
Nice.
yeah.
So one of the things you wrote on here was performance. Was that about the dance?
It's about the dance. It's
Yeah.
also, and I think you can relate. Like it's about the poetry and how you perform.
Right.
Thinking about that, taking into consideration.
When you're doing a feature, do you practice?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I did George Wallace's feature, the feature at Parkside for George, I literally rehearsed the set. I timed it. I rehearsed it 4 times.
Yep. I record it.
Yeah, especially for his.
And see it.
Well, for his, it was a big deal because like I said, I just started doing this, so I met some really great people early on. I think doing a podcast was a big help.
Sure.
And he was on the podcast, and I feel like we hit it off. I think he liked what I was doing with the podcast.
Yeah,
what I
he's
noticed
great.
about George is it's just all about promoting poetry.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just him promoting himself.
Yeah.
Like he's really big on promoting other people.
100%.
And it's an amazing thing. But so I wanted to be really good, and I had I did a couple pieces with pre-recorded music, so that's a little tricky.
Yeah.
Because you have to make sure I get the timing right of that and all. So
No, and you don't want to go over your time. You want it to be tight.
Right.
And with performance, I feel like life. You can live life,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't go back and edit it. But when we perform, there's something that we're giving to. And I know everybody has a different approach. So There's no judgment on somebody else's approach.
that's the way we feel about it. I feel like you write and you write in poetry and people can read it, and then you edit it. Yeah, right.
Right.
But then when you go,
there's that component too.
Right.
And then when you start practicing out loud, there's other organic edits that happen.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's also what else you want to do.
Right, and that's how you want to read it, what emotion you want to put in it, when you're going to break, and. But I do feel I love the performance part of it. I'm not going to lie.
I love a mic.
Yeah,
I love the
me
feeling
too.
of a mic.
Well, I've been in front of mics a lot in my life, but when I was in bands as the drummer, I was playing other people's music.
Okay.
And I didn't really write music. I wrote, when I was in a punk band, I wrote 2 songs in the early 80s, because they're very simple things.
Sure, yeah, short.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that now I get to be the creator and I get to be the performer.
Right.
And I'm also, because you've seen me, I've been doing with my friend, we do music with it too. Not all, I do, thanks.
Yeah.
I do like reading also on my own, but the music thing feels so natural to me, and I'm getting to perform. Right. And I take it like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I I'm with you on that.
And there's different ways of performing, by the way. Not everybody has to do it, but I think you really should be conscious of the fact that you're in front of an audience. Now, I'm not talking about when you go to an open mic. That's a little different.
I even think like with an open, it's good to practice before you
still do that.
Do it.
Yeah, sure.
But with an open, it's such a great opportunity sometimes to try something out and see if it works.
Right. And it could be a little
without
more,
the pressure.
Right. Right. But I feel like if you get lucky enough to be asked to do a feature, you should put yourself into it.
Agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a good place to start talking about NeuroNautic Press.
Yeah.
Matthew was on the show, but
yes.
it was a while ago. We must have talked about it, but there might be new people listening, and my memory's not that good. So tell me about how that got started and what it means to you.
So NeuroNautic, it's actually been around for a while. Matthew had, started like an art collective a while ago. I'll just put it that way, a while ago. And then...
and art collective meaning
like he had different visual artists, and he had been doing... video art and all of these different things, and he did it under NeuroNautic, under that name. And then he had started an annual reading night in the Naked City, and then he was also doing like a weekly writer's workshop.
He's a great host, by the way, for what you guys do.
Thank you. Yeah, agree.
He's so perfect for it.
Yeah, he's and he's
funny and smart, and he always brings up some great tidbits of information.
Yep.
He really runs it great.
Yeah.
Not everybody's good at being a host. He's really good at it.
Yeah, well, and
a great photographer. Like
we talk about it though.
Right.
This is one of those things, right? Like I did. I've choreographed and done dance direction quite a bit for a lot of different places.
And that comes in handy in something like this. It's visual.
We always give notes.
Right.
Always give notes about like what worked, what didn't work. And they're little things, but, we take it seriously about how it's going to be set up. So he had been doing the annual reading. And then, sometime in 2018, we decided to do a monthly reading.
Okay.
And we started at the Red Room. We moved to Zoom, and now we're at Otto's Shrunken Head.
Right.
And
that's a great room. I like it there.
Yeah, and the stage set up.
Right,
and so people want to come in and do music, they can.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a bar situation isn't for everybody, but what's nice being in the back room is that...
But it's pretty
little
separate.
Distance. Yeah, but... And they're so nice there, and it's accessible, and there's just so many elements that really, really, really groove with what we're doing. So, in 2018, we decided to do, something to, just let's, contribute to the community, bring people in, have different voices. Yeah, pretty simple in that respect. And then we did the Night in the Naked City anthology, and now we're working on, press-wise, and now we're working on Thomas Fukuloro, Great Weather for Media, and, slam poetry and Staten Island fame. We're working on one of his next chapbooks.
Great. Okay. When's that coming out?
It should be out in January. Our release is set for February.
So after I did the feature there, it was like a month ago.
Yeah, it was a month ago.
Matthew takes great photos.
Yes, he does. And they're going on Instagram next week for a Throwback Thursday, because we don't have one this month. Yeah.
I think you guys should put a NeuroNautic photo book out.
This has been a conversation. Yeah.
Because they're great photos, and you must have like a great history of poets.
Yeah, and. And thinking about doing,
you could do a photo and then have
a show and then have people come in.
But in the book, it could be a photo
and a poem.
And a poem.
We're right there with you. Okay. Yeah. It's one of the things we thought about.
Yeah. Just the photography is great.
Yeah.
You're both so multi-faceted. Talented. Yeah.
Yes, and so it balances well. Yeah,
I'm waiting for your dance and poetry show.
Yeah, I don't know that's going to come out, but
I actually wanted to do that. So I do a variety. I've done 2 so far. A variety show. It's going to be bi-monthly, and my idea is to really be as variety as much as possible. So far I've had 2 poets, 2 music acts, a storyteller.
That's great.
Which is a little different than poetry, and a comedian as a host.
Okay,
but
Oh, you don't host it yourself?
No, my group
curate
plays.
It.
Yeah, I curate it.
That's cool.
I produce it.
Yeah.
With Fred.
Nice.
He does the audio at the show, and I do the booking of the program.
Nice.
we can talk about me too much. I don't want to do too much of that. But in the 90s, I booked shows for people living with AIDS.
Right.
And so I'm used to booking things. And I did it. And I worked for, before that, I worked for an agency for the blind and put a lot of shows on. So I'm used to doing it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to do it again. Now I have more. If I did this in the 90s, I would have hundreds of musicians I could call on.
Yeah.
Now I have hundreds of poets I could call on.
Right.
But the music part of it, I have to build back up. But my ideas would really be very different. I'm hoping the next time I might have a classical brass quartet perform.
Nice.
Because I guess I don't want it to be just like rock musicians or just blues or, like I want it to be. So they were going to do the last one, but they couldn't do it. And we might do it the next one.
You have a specific group.
Yeah, somebody that I work with.
Yeah.
It's his group.
Oh, that's cool.
That would be really cool. And I might have a country duo, bluegrass country duo. That'd be great. But I was thinking about asking this dancer I know, because I wrote a poem based on her dance because I would see it on Instagram. Mm-hmm. So she actually said she was going to use my poem as a background. But then I was thinking, why don't I come up with a drum part and I have my friend play or music part, read the poem, and she could dance.
Yeah.
That would be great. I have a dance performance.
It would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there is music at some of the poetry readings, right? Mm-hmm. that I've gone to.
Right.
But if you go to the poetry readings, it's mostly poetry.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, you get a little prose.
And you can go to like open mic, and some of them are mostly music.
Right.
So my idea is
and comedy. That's another one that shows up.
So I like the idea of like getting people to, and so far, you can get different.
Multidisciplined.
Yeah, multidisciplined, and might offer people a chance to play in front of some people that wouldn't normally play in front.
Yeah, I mean the tricky thing with dance,
you need space.
Always is the stage.
Right, but she does this type of dance that is it's really almost like yoga movements.
Okay, cool.
It's not like spread out. It's like very contained.
She can contain.
Yeah.
Space.
Anyway, that's a dream.
Yeah,
but that's
cool.
what I want to do going
cool.
forward. Like really have it like that, like really really variety show.
That's great.
Yeah. Did we cover everything you wanted to say about NeuroNautic Press?
Yeah, I mean I think so. Like
right.
my end with that is really behind the scenes,
right.
logistics and looking up what grants and things like that.
That's a big part of it. That's
that's
probably the hard part.
Well, I mean, it is and it isn't if you approach something and
right.
I mean, of course you want to get it, but
Is it a not-for-profit?
It is currently an LLC. It's not a not-for-profit.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
yeah. So, baby steps, and there's like a long arc of what we want to do, but just kind of taking our time and plugging away so that we can focus on our various projects and make sure that, they're where we want them to be.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you luck, and
Thank
I think
you.
you guys do great stuff.
Thank
you want to
you
read something else? And I usually read one at least.
Yeah, you want to read something?
Well, why don't you read one more, and then I'll read one.
Like what? Which one? Let me see. All right. I tend to do things that are a little more adagio, so I'm going to go in that direction. All right. Lighthouse. I take this rock and put it in my mouth. It's a mountain. It sinks. I grow. My trident heals in earth. I follow the instructions. I assume you find meaning in doing the right thing. I assume you know what I mean. Take this rock, put it in your mouth. Crags, saliva, a mountain. There's a rock within each of us. The angle of a spiral determines smack or embrace, oppressive, reasonless. Sit up. Stand where you are. It only seems cruel. I put the stone in my mouth. It means nothing. The river, a swallow. I'm the mountain. My heart aflame, the start very far away. There was a fire in winter, now in summer. Keep it here, a cushion, a cleared off patch of rug, salt drenched, catch defiant. The river, the moon. Stay where you are. There's a stone inside each of us. Malachite, tourmaline, gray river rock. There's a trickster inside each of us, fixing our point external. I put the stone in my mouth. The river, the Pleiades. Take this rock and put it in your mouth. It's broken. Take this heart and put it in your mouth. It's a mountain. Take this sky and put it in your hands. Let it expand. A conversation between ring finger and thumb. Take this river and be still. I, the stillness. You, stillness. Take this stone. Let it sink. Rise. Don't worry about flame. We were made for fire. Take this flame and put it in the hollow of your broken heart and rise. Fill everything with light. Be the mountain. Don't tell anyone.
Very nice. What? Tell me about that.
So this was written for...
Which is something, by the way, like if you go to a poetry reading, you don't get to do. Say, tell me about something.
I actually, when people ask, I'm often pretty obtuse because I want it to be whatever they want it to be. You know, we take things and we find meaning, and I find more interest in hearing what somebody else takes away from it. You know, this for me it's a pandemic poem. I was living very close to Gracie Mansion, and so there was a lot of Black Lives Matter protests, and there just felt like there was all this heat. And then there's this tiny, tiny lighthouse that's on the end of Roosevelt Island in the East River.
Okay, and you could see it from where you were?
And I could see it from where I was, and then I was doing a lot of yoga during the pandemic. I was using T.S. Little's, I think it's The Art of Subtle Yoga. And the first chapter was just about the feet. I spent 3 months on the feet of just how to meet the floor. And so, you know, and then the rock thing is just, it's kind of an absurd, odd thing that connects to gestures that I would do choreographically. It also connects to the concept of a plumb line, PLUMB, that is a concept that we use in dance a lot, just to find your center of gravity. And it just kind of built, and I wrote it, and then my approach is to then rearrange.
I see.
You know, and kind of collage it from what I already have.
Right.
And then it becomes like some kind of incantation or something else on its own.
Very cool. I like to hear that explanation. Do you sit down? Do you say I'm going to write a poem, or are you like what for me is like I'm going to read one, and it was inspired by a documentary I was watching, or I could be going down the street and see something, or I hear a song and there's a line. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, and sometimes I did belong to a daily write group, which is a huge it's a huge mission to write every day and to respond to somebody every day.
Right.
And we would get daily prompts.
Right. Okay.
And and it went from that side too. But I do best when I'm inspired. I've written several songs to Seven Nation Army, just listening to it and like that rhythm, you know, stuff will start to come out. But yeah, and then I'll see something that sparks it.
Right.
Yeah.
I've only written one poem, I think, on a prompt, and it was from a friend who likes my poetry.
That's cool.
And wanted me to write something about. She's an African American woman, and she wanted me to write something about what was going on with Black Lives Matter. Yeah. And actually, I liked the way it came out. She was very pleased.
That's great.
Right. It was just basically about trying to understand other people.
Yeah.
Right, and what they're going through.
Yeah.
So so this one is called "Getting By to Survive," and I got inspired to write it by watching the Tanya Tucker documentary that came out.
Oh wow, yeah.
You know her? No, okay. So, growing up, I wasn't really a country music fan.
Okay.
I've gotten to really like it, as an adult.
Yeah. I like songs.
Yeah.
Individual.
Right.
But.
Yeah. And I can't say I even knew her music that well. But
Okay.
I really like documentaries when I don't feel like investing in a drama or a movie. But I don't want to watch just a TV show.
You take something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You learn about how something is for somebody else.
Typically, it's a music documentary. I love music documentaries. But it was very interesting. The impetus of this was that Brandi Carlile grew up. That was her hero.
Okay.
Tanya Tucker.
Yeah.
Right? Tanya Tucker had a hit when she was 13.
Really?
Yeah, and she was in the top 10.
What was it?
It was Delta Dawn.
Oh.
Right? So Bette Midler did it first. And I think what happened was, I don't know how well it did for her, but then she got discovered, and they went and started playing her songs, and had this one song, I forget the name of it, but you could tell it was like, oh, this is a good song for a 13-year-old, right?
Okay.
Like a really poppy kind of like, and she goes, no, I don't like that. And then they must have played her Delta Dawn, or she knew it, or something. I forgot that part of it. And she had a top 10 country hit with that at 13.
That's incredible.
And then the big hit was Helen Reddy, like a year later. It was a pop hit.
Okay.
Right? So I guess I knew that version of it.
Yeah, I think that's a version.
Yeah. So Brandi Carlile, that was a hero. And she said to her, she met with her and said, I noticed you haven't recorded for like 16 years, and was wondering why. And I want to do for you what Rick Rubin did for Johnny Cash. Because Johnny Cash was relatively forgotten by the time when Rick Rubin started putting those American, what was it called? American...
I don't know.
Something. Anyway. American something. It was like a couple of them, 3 or 4 of them, I think.
Yeah.
And he revived his career.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. So that's what she wanted to do. And it's a really good recording. She's older, of course. She's nearly my age. And her voice is very different, I think she's had some wear and tear in her life. But... I guess she stopped. Her father was her manager, and he died, and then her mother died, and she just stopped doing music, Yeah. And you know what? The album they did won a Grammy. So it's weird, like
with
it's
Brandi Carlile.
Yeah, the one that Brandi Carlile co-produced, and it's amazing. Like say, I want to do for you what Rick Rubin did for.
And she
Johnny
did.
Cash, and she did. It's crazy. And it revived her career. So this is just loosely based. There's a couple ideas in the documentary that I wove into a story, but it's not specifically about her.
Cool.
She was just a singer that sang it right, good enough for a country hit. She wished she understood what it was when the words came forth and made people want to cry. The trailer hitched to a dusty road somewhere far from town. A family of 5 living life in a space hardly meant for 3, and were just getting by to survive. But the hard times didn't go away just because the money came on in. Instead, pain just showed up uninvited, and the big house on the hill felt too empty without anyone else inside. She looked out the window down the hill as the sunset filled the trees and the birds took flight, and dreamt of being a kid playing rodeo games in a schoolyard filled with gravel. Success is only felt when you feel right in your mind, and you love the sound of your voice when it comes out of a car radio while driving 75 on 66, going home to visit Daddy before he dies. So that's a little bit.
That's powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything that we didn't touch upon that you would want people to know about you as a poet, an artist?
I don't know.
No? Before we hit the road. So you gave me links to an audio recording you did with music. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I did this with
So
Stephen.
you're also doing what I'm doing too.
Yeah, well,
music and poetry, and George Wallace does it.
Right. Well, I had done a couple years ago, Caps Calling All Poets, Mike Jerkovic, Ken Holland, and I don't know who else was involved, up in Hudson's group. They did a jazzoetry.
Huh.
And they invited some poets to come up, and they got some amazing jazz musicians.
Oh, cool.
And, we went up one at a time and just...
That was just improvised?
I mean, the music was improvised, right. And we would be like, do what you like, right. Or give me something soft, or, right. Whatever, and, Coltrane. And wow. They would just do something.
Sounds fun.
It was so much fun. Right. And then Stephen Klett has a band, Undercover Rabbis, and they have a studio space. And he was like, why don't you come in and we'll improv.
Right.
and you can just read your poems. Cool. And so we did a whole bunch, and I sent you a couple of those. I think those were the most successful, but something that's starting to build.
Is there anything? Are they online anywhere? People could
Not
check it
yet.
out?
We haven't done anything.
You plan to?
Yeah, we're talking about it.
Right.
Yeah, and I had George Wallace, who's been, he's so generous with so many of us, with the community, and he had invited me to be a part of a group where we had to make a video to go with our poem as well. And so I'm playing with that as well. It was a lot of fun to make the video and play with the vocals.
Will that get to be seen sometime?
It's on YouTube.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
How will people find it?
I believe it's through Rucksack Poetry.
Would they find it by your name?
I think that they would find it by George Wallace's name.
George Wallace's.
I'm getting to the place, and I did something for Boog City a few years back too. That's a video, and I'm getting to the place where I'm realizing I need to put it all in one place in case anybody were to find it. You know, it's getting to that place of realizing, like,
I'm kind of feeling like the same way. Like, I feel like I should do a website because I have this, the podcast, I have the variety show. The so far.
Yeah,
I've done two, and I want to do a third one, and then I have the work I'm doing with Fredo Genziano, and then the poetry. I have to work on. That's a goal for next year.
Yeah, make it easy for people.
I also have
find.
like enough poetry. Now I'm not going to say it's all good, but I have enough poetry for 2 books because I started. I put like 6 or 8 months ago. I organized the book.
Yeah.
And then I just got busy with all this other stuff, and I've written maybe 50 things at least since then. So I have a couple hundred that I have to go through and.
Yeah, I'm kind of wishy-washy with how I feel about my own stuff. There's a very small core where I always come to it and I go, yeah, that's all right.
Right.
But I put together I organize everything for a second book, but then I question all of that.
So you have another book ready to go, or?
Yeah, but then I'm like, no, it needs to be edited. I still edit this,
Well, I think the next time I would want somebody to help. Like my friend helped me put it out, but he didn't suggest taking anything out or I think I need that.
Yeah.
Especially now that I have so many of them.
Well, let me know because I love editing and I love looking at stuff.
We should talk about that because what I noticed is like my first book. Of course, I didn't know anything about putting a book out. Not that much about poetry either. I hate to admit it sounds funny, but so I just put out what I thought I would. I just was excited about even the idea of putting a book out.
Yeah.
And then I didn't ever think that was going to be something I would do. And luckily my friend said. How
did it come about? Like
so what
somebody
happened was
published you?
I have fans when I post my stuff on Facebook, and I have fans, and they go, "Oh, you should put a book out." And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And then I realized a friend of mine has done that kind of stuff. And it's funny. When I say a friend, it's he's a good friend, but he lives in Iowa. We hadn't seen each other for a really long time.
Yeah.
But we reconnected on Facebook, and I asked him, "Hey, do you think you might want to help me with this?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll take a look." I was terrified sending it to him. His father was a poet, professor at Iowa University, or I forgot. Sorry.
And there's a Providence school out there.
And and so my friend,
for poetry specifically.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And his father was a great poet, and Rich is a talented writer as well. I was like, he's going to think this is awful, but maybe he'll do it just as a friend. Anyway, he liked it and put the book out. But I didn't ask him if we should take anything out. I think he felt it was good.
Okay.
But the next time, I really feel like I want to. Your first book, if you make mistakes. The second one you shouldn't, right? That's how I feel.
Sure,
kind of.
No, there should be a sharper learning curve. Yeah.
But the real thing that's holding me back is I stink at promoting it. So it's like, all right, I did sell a few copies of it, but I hardly ever bring it to read-ins.
I also stink at promotion.
And I hate talking about it at the read-ins because it's a room full of poets that all have books. It's like,
well, and in some ways, like, that's your best audience, right? It's like, other people. So,
I've actually really given quite a few of them away.
Well, there's that happens too.
But I figure it's $6 it cost me to
oh, really?
To publish.
Yeah. Well,
so
I mean,
I could give it away. You buy somebody a beer, you can give them a book.
But there's also, selling the book so then you can make another book.
True.
Having the money
exactly
go back into itself. But
so remember we talked about, like, I don't want to, I find that I've been doing the recent episodes have been very long.
Yeah,
we're at the hour.
I know. I spotted that a while ago.
Okay, but
but this has been a blast.
I know.
Thank you so much.
And I don't think it's been boring. I think it's been very
I
exciting. I think it's one of the best ever.
I've been entertained.
Okay, so I'm going to play the... Oops, I lost it. I'm going to play the theme song and say goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Oh, there goes Fred's counting it off. So you've been listening to Storytelling on Orchard Street with my very interesting, fantastic guest, Meghan Grupposo. Anything coming up? Any features or anything coming up soon? Or?
Not until I think May, when I'm here at PNT Knitwear.
Oh, May. They booked that far in advance?
Yes. Well, I booked myself that far in
okay.
advance.
And how can people find your books and you or whatever?
NeuroNauticPress.com, or I believe it's just NeuroNautic.com, and it's NeuroNautic Press on Instagram. And there's a link to the website via the IG.
Okay. Meghan, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
Storytelling on Orchard Street can be found, well, if you're listening to this, you know where to find it. It's on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Did I forget anything? Anyway, it's a bunch of places. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed doing it. And thank you and good night.